Let's see this in action by cloning a request offering business object. Click on the offering you want to copy. Then, rename it and click Copy to define the service. You'll choose the service that has the escalation schedule that you want associated with it. You can choose or add a new category to the offering. Once you've done that, you'll click Next to make changes, if needed, to the design of the request form and the plan request fulfillment workflow. Finally, you'll change the status to Publish so that people can see it and update the org unit or units if needed. Then click Save and Exit. Behind the scenes, the design of service level management is comprised of various moving parts, including services, service level agreement subscriptions, and response and resolution targets. Let's see the process that Ren uses in ISM to design service level management for Remote Peak Hotel. You start the process by selecting the service owner role and opening the Service workspace. Click the New Service button. Of course, the name you give the service will vary. In this scenario, we're going to create a hotel business service for Remote Peak Hotel. You'll want to decide if the service is technical, business, or both. Then, if you're going to use the service right away, choose Production for the status. Finally, you'll select the hours of operation. If you want to add other details such as the team, owner, and other details, you can. Be sure to save your new service when you're done. Once you create and save a new service, go to the tabs and scroll to the right to see the service level package that ISM automatically created when you hit Save. Go to the record to see the service, hours of operation, and any other information that you entered when you created the service. The compliance target and name fields are default, and you can change them to meet your business needs. If you scroll down, you'll see the service request delivery target and the incident response and resolution targets. In each target, you can change the compliance targets. You'll also see the target duration, which is the maximum amount you want to allow for response and resolution. It's important to save your changes. Click Go To on the response target to see the service level target workspace, which is where you define your override conditions or exceptions. Click New to create a target condition and add a Priority 1 exception with its associated delivery target. Simply click Save. You'll repeat this process until all 5 priorities are set. Click Save, and then close that item. You'll return to the service package and repeat the same process that you did for the response targets. In this scenario, we have 3 days total, so keep that total in mind as you set your priorities for resolution. Also remember that the resolution delivery target time for a priority is separate from the response target time. We can set the priority 1 to an hour, which means we have 15 minutes to respond to and another hour to resolve it. You've saved each one so you can then close that item. You've completed your service level package targets and changed any compliance values as needed. From the new service, you can click on Service Desk category to further define what the service is for. Simply click New, name the service, and click Save. You can add as many categories as you need. ISM saves the categories each time you go through that process. Now that you've seen how to design SLM, let's see how a Service Desk analyst uses the service and its associated targets from the front end. Let's see this in action by cloning a request offering business object. Click on the offering you want to copy. Then, rename it and click Copy to define the service. You'll choose the service that has the escalation schedule that you want associated with it. You can choose or add a new category to the offering. Once you've done that, you'll click Next to make changes, if needed, to the design of the request form and the plan request fulfillment workflow. Finally, you'll change the status to Publish so that people can see it and update the org unit or units if needed. Then click Save and Exit. The next step is to publish a service agreement by creating an SLA subscription. There are some that come with the out-of-the-box agreement, but in this scenario, a new one is needed. Click Create Agreement to start a new one. Scroll to Hotel Business Service and click it. You'll see the default service level package that was just created. Click Next to see the service request offerings associated with the SLA subscription. Click Next to customize it if you need to. Then, Click Next to see a nice overview of everything that you've done with the targets. Review and make changes if you need to before you save. You'll now see the Hotel Business Service Agreement in the list. If you go back to the service and click Refresh, you'll see the new service agreement that you just created. Imagine that a guest calls the service desk analyst to complain the conference room he reserved was dirty. The analyst creates a new incident and selects Hotel Business Service from the Service drop-down menu and Conference Room from the Category menu before she saves the incident. To see the targets populate, the analyst clicks the Refresh button. The response target is met because it runs off the logged value and someone has taken ownership of the incident. There are about 52 minutes left before the first escalation. These targets pulled from the Hotel Business Service. View details of this by opening the Escalation Watch tab. The next step is to publish a service agreement by creating an SLA subscription. There are some that come with the out-of-the-box agreement, but in this scenario, a new one is needed. Click Create Agreement to start a new one. Scroll to Hotel Business Service and click it. You'll see the default service level package that was just created. Click Next to see the service request offerings associated with the SLA subscription. Click Next to customize it if you need to. Then, click Next to see a nice overview of everything that you've done with the targets. Review and make changes if you need to before you save. You'll now see the Hotel Business Service Agreement in the list. If you go back to the service and click Refresh, you'll see the new service agreement that you just created.
There are a variety of options that you have when you open an escalation schedule. Let's talk about what those options are. The first is an option to run a secondary response clock if needed for the value you select. You can then edit the values for the clock and escalation thresholds to run a quick action when the time expires. Another option is that you can recalculate or reset the escalation clock when the escalation schedule replaces another schedule. For example, if a priority is changed from 2 to 1, you have the option of resetting the clock or recalculating using the time already spent. The next option is required to link your business object to the escalation watch, which sets the relationship. You'll want to check the final option to select the audit setting so that you get the log files for what you are doing. In this scenario, Ren wants to set an escalation for alert so that they close automatically after a certain amount of time. Escalations can have exceptions that are not based on priority. The logic and steps that she uses for alerts can easily apply to other business objects, such as announcement, event, problem, change, and approval. From the admin UI, click Business Objects and open the alert. Click Fields and Add New. Then click Link. You'll enter Alert Watch Link for the field and display names. Click Save. Next, click Relationships. Select FRS Data Escalation Watch. Many fields will be filled out for you. Add an internal reference name of Alert Assoc Escalation Watch. Update the escalation watch to Rec ID primary key. This resets the business object, so choose the Alert Watch link to correct it. Leave both as 0 or 1 and the relationship as associates with. Click Add this relationship and then click Save. Click Fields and set the business object link to FRS Data Escalation Watch. Click Save. To view what is happening with the escalation, you will update the layout. Click Layouts and Alert. Click Form View, and then Add Child panel. Enter Escalation Watch for the display name. Click Not Set under Object. For the direct relationship, select FRS Data Escalation Watch. Click Save and select Yes. To set the form, click Not Set, and select the brief form. Click OK. Click Closable. Finally, click Not Set under Initially Visible and type True, and click Save. Click Save again to save your layout changes. If you select an alert, you will see the new Escalation Watch Child panel. There are some buttons that you don't want users to see on the toolbar. So click Layout, Alert, and under Toolbar, click Edit. Then drag all of the items into the trash. And click Save. Click Save again. When you refresh and go to Alert, you will see that the buttons are gone. From the Admin UI, you click Business Objects, Automation Tools, and Escalation Schedule. Click Add New and choose the Alert Business Object. For the schedule name, type Auto Close, since Ren wants the alert to be closed automatically. Select Status to regulate the escalation clock. Then set the clock actions completed and run for your closed and current values. Finally, you need to select the Alert Watch Link business object. Click Save. Now the Alert Auto Close escalation schedule that you just created appears. You can create new escalation actions for your escalation schedule, which was done previously since you've learned how to create quick actions. Let's look at these. In the Alert workspace, click Actions and then Edit Actions. There is an Update Quick action that sets the status to close that you can use for the breach action. There are also notifications that will be sent out to teams before the action is actually closed. You can use the clone button and update each notification message. From the Alert Auto Close schedule, click Set Thresholds. For testing, set the target duration to 5 minutes and the hours of operation to 24/7. Set the on-breach run action to close alert. Set the 3 escalation levels to the appropriate percentage and run actions. And click OK. From the front end, go to More and click on Alerts. Click New Alert and enter the test information for it. Click Save to start the escalation watch. If you refresh and scroll down, you will see the escalation watch details. If you wait a few minutes and refresh, you will see the status changed and the first alert notification was sent.
Let's return to Remote Peak Hotel and Matt Reber, the ISM administrator. In the configuring email training that you have taken previously, Matt set up the email server and enabled a basic email listener configured to update incidents. Matt has discovered a need to expand the listener further to allow service requests and tasks to also be updated via email. He has noticed that some analysts will respond to an email about a task or service request rather than updating the system directly. On the next slide, Matt will go back to email configuration to edit the listener. To start, Matt will open the Email Config workspace. We can see that the current listener is configured to incident only. We will click Other on this dropdown. The system will then ask us to specify these values: name, unique key, record marker, and field value separator. We will enter service rec into the name and service rec number into the unique key. It's important to point out that even though we're entering service rec, this listener will not create a service request, but will allow for the update of incidents, service requests, and tasks. For the record marker and field value separator, we will leave those as is. The record marker indicates how multiple records within an email are separated. The field value separator indicates how the fields you are populating are separated. In this case, it is a semicolon. Looking at this sample email, we can see what this would look like. There are semicolons in between fields and a hash sign between the section to indicate the updating of a second record. Sending this email would update the specified incidents, service requests, or tasks. We will keep Create Incident on Error selected. That will allow us to still create an incident if none of the other conditions are present. Moving down, now we will keep the incident or task owner team set as Service Desk. This is the default setting and will work in this situation. We will leave Create Task for every email unchecked, and because we're doing that, we'll also leave the new task subject as is, no changes needed. The last task we need to do in order to save this is to specify the sender and business object identification and matching. In this case, we will select the second option. This will create a record only when the employee or external contact exists. This will eliminate the creation of incidents from spam emails. We will click Save Now to save this email listener configuration. On the next slide, Matt will send in a sample email to ensure that this is working for both an incident update and a task update. We're going to test this now by sending an email to the inbox. First, let's check that an incident will still update. Matt will send this email to the system and then confirm that the system receives it correctly. You can see here that the email is a reply to an incident. The listener should update the underlying incident with this email. If you come into the email workspace, you can see all emails that have come into the system and if they have been processed or not. We can see that the test email has been processed. We can now go to the incident to see if the listener worked. Looking at the incident's saved search, we can open the associated incident. Looking at the activity history within the incident, we can see all the incoming and outgoing email. This top email is a reply, so we know the listener is working properly. If we open the email, we see a business object followed by a £sign and then a number. The listener is looking for this pattern and then associating the email with that incident. On the next slide, we will check the functionality of this listener with a task. This incident has a task assigned to a user. There is an outgoing email seen here. If the user responds to this email, the listener should assign this to the incident. The task email is set up with the same pattern as before, with a business object, £sign, and a number. That will allow the email listener to recognize this task and connect it with the right business object record. After the user sends a response, we can see a new email on the activity history. The email listener is functional for tasks. In prior trainings, Matt has configured the inbox and enabled the email listener to listen for incidents, service requests, and tasks. He wants to take this a step further and add all objects including problem and change. In this course, Matt will create a listener to do that. This process involves uploading an XSLT and associated XSL files and then configuring the system. Looking at the inbox workspace, we scroll down and see that this inbox is currently processing for incident. When we're done, this will be listening for all objects. We will skip ahead to this knowledge base article found at forums.ivanti.com. You can see the article number here, which is currently 0000356669. This article provides a downloadable link for all of the necessary files. The documents found in the zip file are everything you need to listen for all business objects. We've downloaded and extracted all of the files seen here. The first item we'll look at is the email to incident and SR XSLT file. While this is the base for all other scripts, you can see them here with the list of XSL import tags. If you didn't want to have all of these in your listener, you would edit this document directly. For example, if you didn't want to have release objects updated, you would come in here and delete these lines and the corresponding when statements below. Matt does want the listener to listen for all objects, so we will simply leave everything as is. We will close that and then create the data import connection. Back in the application now, we will set up the data import process. From the administrator settings, we will open the data import connections. This will open this space. We will select Add New. We will call this the Hotel Email Listener. The connection type is Email Import. The system automatically sets this to hierarchical XML. We need to upload the XSLT file here. We will click Upload, and then we will find that the file we looked at on the last slide, which is right here, the email to incident and SR file. We will click Open, and that will be placed inside here. The next step is to add additional files. We will start with the top one, and then add each of these files individually. There is no way to do more than one at a time. We will go through now and add each of these individually. With each one of these files added, we can come down here to test the connection. We click that and see that it was successful. We will click Save here. That saved the new data import. We can scroll down and see that right here, we have our hotel email listener, and it is turned on, indicated by the toggle switch here. The next step will be associating to an inbox, which we will do next. With the data import connection set, we will associate it with an inbox. We are back now in the inbox workspace. First step is to come down here to the inbox, which is currently set to incident. We will change that to Export Email as XML. The system automatically grabbed the hotel email listener data import connection because it is the only one in the system. If there were more, you would select the correct one. We will leave Create Incident on Error selected. That way, if any of those emails get lost, it will still create an incident. Scrolling down, we will keep these settings as is. The system will create a record by creating or linking the employee or external contact. If someone sends an email and is not an employee, they will then be created in the system. That's all we need to do in order to make this inbox listen for all objects. We will come up here to click and save. On the next slide, Matt will check the functionality of the listener. Let's test this now with a new change request submitted through email. To give you an idea of how this will work and information is needed, let's look at the XSLT file once again. We can see the logic that drives the creation of each business object that you want to create a record by email with. For example, for a new request, you would need this in the subject line. For new problem, you would need this value in the subject line, and so on. If I wanted a new change, I would start a new email and then put new change in the subject line. I want to make sure this is correct, so I will minimize this and then open the new change XSL file. Looking at the logic in here, we will find the subject of the change. It's looking for substring after new change within an email subject line. This means whatever comes after new change and a space will become the subject of the change. We will open email again, and to make this work, verbiage must be added after new change with the email subject. We'll add some text to the subject, and within the email body, we'll type some text about adding an IP address to the firewall. We can then click Send. We will minimize email and these other files and jump back into Service Manager to see if the listener worked. We will open the Change workspace to see all active change objects. Looking at the top record now, we see that a change has been successfully created from the email that was sent. We will open this up to take a look. We see that the summary, "Please add IPs to firewall," was successfully added to the summary from the email subject line, and the description was taken from the body of the email. The status is set to logged, and the team is set to change management. These can of course be changed, but these are what is set in the XSL document. We can see that the listener seems to be working for creating a new change. On the next slide, Matt will check that the listener will update a change from an email. We will look at how to update a change. Let's start by looking at the changeupdate.xsl document to see what's going on with the change update. It's going to be updated based on the change number, that is the unique key defined here. For this to route properly, we need to always specify this change number. We will close out this file now and send an email. We will click New and New Email within the active history. We will enter some text into the email now and click Save. That will send this email to the requester and then wait for a reply. The requester then replies, and the email appears here, attached to the change object. We can see that the listener is, in fact, working correctly for both creating and updating the change. The listener is now configured to create and update all objects.